Today we have a short build video on an early game strength build. The goal with this build will be to get out heavy attacks very quickly in order to burn our enemies down quickly. I opted for the Executioner's Great Axe because you can get it very early in the game and it's quite a good weapon, but you could use just about any large two-handed weapon that scales well with strength. The easiest place to get this early in the game is by the graveyard just north of the lake-facing cliffs site of Grace and Liurny of the Lakes. In my offhand, I have the Highland Axe because it's going to boost our damage while under the effects of a Roar skill. And then I do like to use one or two incantations with this build, so any finger seal you pick up is just fine. I started as a Confessor, so I had this as a starting equipment. And then I am using the Kaiden set for armor. For our talismans, I'm using the Axe Talisman because we're doing a lot of charged heavy attacks. Radagon's Sword Seal is very powerful early in the game because it's giving us 20 stats, which is effectively 20 levels worth of stats. And then of course the Roar Medallion because it boosts the amount of damage we deal with our charged attacks while under the effects of our skill. In my Wondrous Physic, I have the Strength Knot Crystal tier and the Spiked Crack tier to increase our damage further. I am using the Barbaric Roar skill on my Executioner's Great Axe. This lets us use 3 heavy attacks very quickly, which will stagger most small enemies. And with this setup, you can usually poise through any light attacks that you get hit with during this attack animation. I also ran over to Caelid real quick to grab the Red Hot Wet Blade so that I can infuse this with fire, because using a fire enchantment as opposed to heavy is going to increase our damage by quite a bit early in the game. And because of this, the main incantation I like to use is Flame Grant Me Strength. This will boost both our physical and fire damage that we deal. And then optionally, you may want to include something like Bestial Vitality because you will be trading a little bit with this build. As far as stats go, the main things you need will be 15 Faith in order to cast your Flame Grant Me Strength. And for my endurance, I wound up with 22 points. And then you'll need a minimum of 23 strength because we are two-handing our Great Axe. We need 23 in order to wield this weapon. And then most of your other points you're going to want to put in vigor this early in the game. And from there on out, you can balance putting points in strength and vigor. For most encounters, I like to keep my Barbaric Roar up because it's going to increase the damage that we're dealing. It also gives us access to these 3 quick heavy attacks, which is very strong. And then for longer or harder encounters, I will use my Physic and also Flame Grant Me Strength to further boost our damage. It takes a little practice to get the timing right because when an enemy is approaching you, you need to start winding up before they actually reach you so that you can trade favorably. But once you get that down, you shouldn't really have any issue with any enemies that you encounter. Another option that I didn't actually use that much, but it can be useful in some situations, is to block and counterattack with your Great Axe. With a recent patch, they increased the speed of a lot of counterattacks. And even though your Great Axe isn't going to block 100% of the damage, it still can be useful when used like this. Alright, that's it for this build. I've got a few more mid-game and end-game builds lined up over the next couple weeks. And if you enjoyed this, check out my channel for some other cool builds.
Weave thy night into being.